enjoy your day and enjoy coffee time with Pastime Comics and Collectibles.
All right. Look who decided to join us, Mr. Chris.
I had a fantasy football draft.
Yeah. Right spot.
Hey, Daniel, how you doing?
I'm good, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing good, sir.
Good.
Thanks
Good
for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. As it seems, we'll be seeing each other in this kind of format for a little while.
Yeah, it's a little different, isn't it?
It is. It is. Having watched the video just then of the clips that you guys had put together, just depressed me at the amount of times we've got to spend in each other's company.
Yeah.
Oh, and James Dawson joining us. London Daniel, how are you doing?
James.
Morning, James.
Evidently, he was part of that draft in there with Chris. So.
He was in there as well, yes.
So
I think his dog tried to attack another dog down the street from what I was hearing on the phone. So that was interesting.
But, well, Daniel, obviously we are very happy that you decided to join us. We have several people watching. For those that are watching, feel free to ask questions as we go through. If you have anything that you want to talk to Daniel about, if you're not aware of who Daniel is, he's actually one of the owners of Scott's Collectibles out of the UK. They rep a lot of artists, Inhook Lee, Martina, Gorillo, just to name a few, but quite a few artists. So we're just sitting down with him, talking today, talking about some things, how he got started in the business. And so Daniel, I think that the first thing is something I wasn't aware of until I started Facebook talking. How did you get started in the comic book business, and what's the revenue artist?
Actually, it's a kind of a long-winded story, so I'll try and cut it down for you as much as possible. So, my dad, when I was sort of 15 years of age, had a comic book store. So he sold predominantly new books, like every comic book store does, but a lot of back issues. So he used to fly to and from the US when we could get something like $2 for every pound, buy a ton of back issues, a ton of comics, bring them back to the UK and sell them to the UK marketplace. So he used to pretty much do that, maybe 10 times a year. And I think as a young child, I just sort of saw him doing that, got into comic books because of that. And it kind of just filtered through to later life, actually. Once I had a job where I was able to save enough money, I started buying comic books, buying key issues, buying back issues. Me and him kind of got to a point where we had so many back issues, we decided to put everything together and start selling back issues. So it kind of went from there, really, and built up selling books. You get to know people in the industry. You start to realise that there's kind of gaps in the industry in terms of what we can do being European-based versus what's done in the US. We kind of bring things back and forth. That's how we got into working with artists. It was kind of a bit of a eureka moment.
All right. James was saying my mic was going in and out. James, I did some switches, so let me know if it's still having issues or not.
Much better.
Okay. All right, good.
Because did I answer that question right, Ryan? Because I didn't hear the question.
I apologize. It was, yes, I was just kind of asking how you got started and what you did. So you said your dad actually had a comic book shop. Was it Scott's Collectibles, or what was the name of the shop that he had?
He used to own a store called Adventure into Comics. That's what it was called. And he actually had two stores. And he ran it for many, many years. But selling comics was very different in those days. We didn't have the internet. Everything you sold was to people that came to your shop, or people that saw you advertising in a magazine and in mail order. All the things we don't do nowadays, really. So he obviously, comic books not being an essential business, he had a business that did really well, and then it kind of got a bit quiet, and then comic books are one of those kind of fad industries where everybody goes crazy for them. And then when there's a recession, especially here in the UK, this was obviously many years ago, 20 years ago plus, so comic books became less popular, and he had to go off and do different things. But obviously the love of comics was still there for all of us, so I'm blaming him, basically.
McLean came in with a question. Says, in the process of starting the idea of getting an exclusive cover going, do you get to choose the book, and do you get to choose what goes on the cover? I know y'all don't do a lot of exclusives specifically for Scots. You kind of let people go through it and get your artist, and they do it. But for when y'all do actually do exclusives, Dan, do you pick the book and the cover, or do you kind of let the artist pick? And how do you pick which artist you're going to use out of your stable of artists that you have?
Very good questions. It's a mixture, really. It is. Sometimes we try to pick covers, as you probably know, that they're coming out broadly at the same time we'd be appearing with certain artists. So the titles would be dictated by what's available in the build up to the conventions we're going to, and obviously which artists are coming with us. It kind of makes sense to have an artist do a cover, and then it builds something special for the event that you're going to. So there's definitely an element of that, but at the same time, you have a standing as to what your artists really like drawing and what it is that they're maybe most renowned for. So you tend to pick the artist and the title together based on that as well. You know, I mean, if we were going to go to a show and Vampirella coming out, then clearly I'm going to be looking to people like Lucio, people like Carla, because they're probably best suited to the source material. But obviously it depends if they're at the show with us. If they're not coming to the convention with us, then I'll look at who's going to be there. So it's a combination, really.
Hopefully, McLean, that answered the question that you were asking. Lee said, yeah, he used to sell Alan comics so he could afford to go to the pub. Now y'all just pay him to go to the pub. So,
God, you let anyone. You know.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a live feed, so he can join. I can't kick him out. I don't know. I blame you. You hired him, so.
Oh God, don't.
Let's see. Crane said, "And who's the best? Who's it up to choose the artist best for the cover?" We talked about that. So speaking of exclusive covers, I just wanted to kind of bring this one up because I'm in love with that one, obviously, and talk about the process of being able to talk to McFarlane and Kel to be able to do a cover like that for Spawn.
Yeah, that one I can't take total credit for, because clearly, having worked with Francesco Mattina for a while, he has a good relationship with Todd and Todd's team. So that's kind of allowed us to build a relationship with Todd's team also. So that's kind of how we've got that. And a point of contact, I would say. But that was that's a project I was probably really proud of, actually, because we wanted to, this year specifically, before the world went to what it is today, we decided we were going to do a lot of conventions all over. And one of the things that I think Todd McFarlane is quite renowned for is thinking outside of the box. So we were able to kind of think, you know what, rather than asking Todd to do a variant to sell in the US, whether they can do that, we figured, why don't we ask to do something that's going to be specific to another marketplace with an artist that's localized to that area, so that it increases the Spawn brand. You know, we want to do something that brings something back to Spawn, rather than just being a retailer making a lot of money off of his brand. So I've seen Kale, you guys know Kale really well. Kale's done so many Spawn commissions that I looked at myself and thought, wow, how stunning would they be as covers? So it kind of made the process of who to choose easy. It was really him and Alan that kind of stood out, that you would want them to do a Spawn cover. And it just turned out that specifically that Kale was the man for that specific book, and he did an amazing job on it. It's sold like hotcakes, which we knew would happen the second we sold it in the country that wasn't the US. And it's a fantastic project. I can't thank Todd enough for letting us do it, and I can't thank Kale enough for doing such a great job.
I mean, I noticed the other day that McFarlane actually is using it on his Facebook. So, I mean, obviously he enjoyed the cover just as much as we did. So,
yeah, we did notice that. Shared that and posted that in our Facebook group, because that's quite a big accomplishment for Todd to be using the cover that we worked on his own profile.
Next question, just curious, and Chris or Julian, if y'all have some, feel free to chime in. But whenever like Alessandro Vitti, right? He's going to be doing the interiors for Taskmaster for Marvel. Do you go to Marvel and try to pitch the idea of using an artist for something like that, or do they approach the artist? They approach you? How does that process work?
We're very lucky. Well-established artists. So established guys, we don't really need to go to any of the big publishers to promote them because the publishers know who they are and already work with them in one way, shape, or form. So something like that, they're getting contacted by. But if some of the newer guys, then yeah, we would have to go speak to Marvel, speak to DC, make them aware of some of the artists we work with, show them samples of their work, and try to get the ball rolling. Ultimately, it's down to the quality of work of the artist. And Marvel and DC, they make their own decisions. If they like something enough, then they will start asking more questions, and then you kind of just, put the two together and get the hell out of the way, really.
I have a question for you. I know Ryan had asked you what got you started in the comic industry, and you talked about your, Alan having a store and things, and that's kind of how you got started. What made you decide that you wanted to bring on artists, and that was the venture that y'all wanted to take, is to have a stable of artists under y'all, and then use that avenue when you go out to cons and things?
A combination of two things, Chris. Firstly, I think we started to realize very quickly that the market and the industry was changing.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys know this. You've been to a lot of conventions. You start to realize that the power shifts towards the artist because they're kind of the rock stars of the industry. So we kind of noticed that very early on, that if you wanted to be something in the industry, you need to be working with the people that are the rock stars of the industry. So that was kind of the eureka moment. But for us, I think we started doing CGC signature. We became facilitators in the UK. And there are really no CGC facilitators in Europe bar in us. So we realized very quickly that we could take clients' books from the UK and Europe, bring them to US conventions, get them signed, get them graded, and it worked out to be quite a good business plan. But I think what I realized quite quickly after that was, hold on, we've got a hell of a lot of really talented artists in Europe that you guys can't get. So how do we make that process work? Rather than us flying to the US, bringing UK clients' books, and then bringing them back home, how do we do business with clients in the US and therefore make the journey work both ways? And that was when we kind of started to realize that a lot of the really talented artists there are in Europe and the rest of the world, not just Europe, Asia's quite prolific for it as well. But a lot of these guys don't go to the US anywhere near as much as the demand would dictate. So that was pretty much kind of the light bulb moment where we need to do something along this line. We need to figure out how we can work with artists, work with creators, and be able to maintain businesses in both the UK and European marketplace, as well as in the US. So it was born from that, really, Chris.
Brad must have muted. Yeah. Good answer. No, I like that answer. I was always curious about that when we first met you and started talking to you about that. I never really figured out how you guys really just came together and decided, because you have a stable of just amazing artists, and now writers, you're coming in under the flag, the Scott's Collectible flag. So it's good to see the way that the business is growing and the artists that are coming up under you guys.
Yeah, I you know what, Chris? I think it's like anything. I'm quite lucky myself in that I've worked with companies that you have to look at things in a very, how do I future-proof my business?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I love the industry, but one of the things I would say, kind of observing the comic book industry, is you get a lot of people that have comic books that work in the comic book industry. So there's fans, ultimately, that progressed to be business owners because of their fanship. And it became quite apparent quite early when you kind of look at this that a lot of people don't apply general business strategy to working in this industry. So we wanted to make sure we were a little bit different. We thought, hey, how do we future-proof our business? Being the only company in Europe that can offer CGC signature series is great, till such a time where somebody else can. So what do you do to make yourself stand out and future-proof your business so that people can't stand on your toes? Well, you've got to make sure you're working with some talented artists that are only going to work with you. So that means that those artists are not going to go off and sign comics and do work with other people working with you. So that was kind of the first thought process. So artists, once you start working with one, you end up working with two, with three, with four, and I think it becomes more about selecting who you work with. That's kind of where we're at now. It can be very easy to grow the base of clients we work with and get to a point where you have 30, 40, 50 artists and writers. I think that detracts away from what we're trying to do. That is, we're trying to create a situation where we work with select, like-minded creators that really want to be part of what we're doing, build a kind of family environment that knows how to make money, the artist, how to have a great time, how to help fans get what they want.
Yeah, I know you and I've actually talked about that in the past, Dan. We've talked about that, the fact that that family-oriented business, because if you go to a con in Scott's Collectibles, you and Alan are back there with the artist. You have that relationship with the artist. And I personally have seen other companies, and I'm not mentioning them. There's a big company out there, which the owner may or may not be around, or may not be talking to those artists, and is repping those artists. Whether they have a relationship or not, you couldn't tell. The owners know where they see. So I know talking to Alan and Kel and guys like that, they definitely enjoy having that family relationship type thing.
Yeah, well, you've got to, there's a balance between making your own business efficient and making your own business successful, but then looking after the people you work with. It's very easy to take on as many creators as you physically can and make a lot of money for yourself. Then it becomes much harder to produce a business that looks after the creators that work with you, because there's only a certain amount of opportunities you can offer, and you'll start being asked the question, well, hey, I'm working with you for a year, but what have I really got out of that relationship? And I was very aware, we were very aware when we discussed that as a business in the beginning, that isn't kind of avenue we wanted to go down. I would rather work with between 10 and 20 creators that really want to work with you, that trust you, that you trust them, and you do really well, but at the same time, they do really well. It's really important, because if you don't look after the creators, then why would they work with you? I think that's key going forward. That relationship, giving them the opportunity. Kale did that amazing. If we had had 50 artists working with us, I would have to have figured out 150 to work on a project like that. Whereas how it stands now, everybody gets an opportunity because you're being loyal to them, they're being loyal to you.
We have a question from James, because he's itching to see you. With the cons being canceled and moved around toward the end of the year, do you see Scott's and or the artists attending any shows that may happen this year, or is it more of a preparing for con season next year at this point?
I would absolutely love to see you all before the end of the year at multiple conventions. And in some cases, we are still scheduled to go to conventions that are still not cancelled as we speak. If I see any of those things happening, probably not. I think it's this is a topic that's beyond comic books. It's a topic that's beyond us being fans of comic books in the comic industry. It's a world issue, and I think that is most probably going to cause a scenario where there will be no conventions this year. I'd be very surprised. Unless a vaccine drops in the next couple of months and then gets distributed around the world, I don't see large gatherings of people, whether it be for sports events or Comic-Cons happening. So, yeah, my mind's on what we're doing next year. I'm still, slightly hopeful, and got that part of me that's childlike that thinks, if it happens tomorrow, we'll still be over there and still do some of the things that we had planned. We're having to plan for next year, I think, just to be delicate.
I think you both talked about that, and that's kind of where our thought process is on that as well. That's where it's at. So, let's see. McLean said, you spoke of working with your dad in his comic store and its adventures in your early years. What is your most memorable moment and the oldest, most valuable and memorable comic book you still own to this day you picked up while on these early year comic book adventures with your dad that you still think about?
Oh, good question. We are in the industry now. I kind of miss just being a pure and simple fan, And if I'm thinking back to some of the early days, I can think of maybe 10, 15 years ago, me and my dad flew over to Florida, two of us, and decided to go to MegaCon. And MegaCon was there, and I've got to be honest, in those days, we just went to buy comics. We didn't go to our families and try and buy comics. We were there just to look at the comic book. And me, it's memorable because we were in a place and a state that we enjoyed being from a holiday perspective. But we were just there as pure and simple fans, running around, looking at everybody's comics and buying as much as we could. And so for me, that's kind of when I think of comic book, me as a hobbyist, that popular now it's not a lot of work, still fun. So that definitely resonates in my mind. Comic books that I own. Oh, good question. Very good question. I've got an F1 that is a CGC 4.5. And I bought that probably about 7-8 years ago. So that's definitely one I'm particularly proud of. Because, I thought I'd own an F1, from that time 15 years ago, 10 years ago, on until now. I think I'd have an FF1. Probably not. But yeah, it's there in a box now and gets looked at least once every week just to make sure it's still there.
For those that didn't catch it, because your mic's still kind of went in and out, that was a Fantastic Four #1, 4.5 PPC. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
I don't know if you saw earlier, but Inhook's checking in, saying hi.
Oh, no, I didn't. Hey.
That's
Julian, brother.
That's Julian's favorite artist that you rap is Inhook. He loves Inhook.
That's my brother from another mother.
Now, if you ever want to talk about an artist that is 150% devoted to churning his work out at a high level, it's that guy. I don't think he eats. I don't think he sleeps. He just literally produces comic book covers.
What I'm talking about.
Yeah, he has the work ethic of 20 lions. It's amazing.
The first time I met him, Daniel, was, of course, last year at MegaCon with you guys, and it amazed me how a man can sit in a chair all day with his feet under him and draw like there's no end. I was a fan. I was a follower. That was it. That set it in.
Well, and I'll double that in the fact that the man will go back to the hotel room with a 6-pack of beer and some Red Bull, and between the two till 4 o'clock in the morning, knocking out every commission for every person that came and saw him at the booth. That's how dedicated he is. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know what? On a personal note as well, for someone that doesn't speak English, have the best time and the best laugh. It's incredible.
Oh, Daniel, I got that figured out. We're very versed in Google Translate, me and Inhook.
Yeah, Google Translate it's definitely helpful, right?
I'm actually looking at a way to see if we can't find someone that can actually translate Korean so we can have Inhook on here one day. That's my goal. So. Lee says Nick's probably sketching right now as he's on here. Lee, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Lee's in the pub right now. So.
Lee wishes he was in the pub.
Yeah. So going back, kind of what Chris was talking about on the artist and everything, do you typically find yourself reaching out to artists now to take them on? Obviously, probably in the beginning, but now that you've established Scott's Collectibles, is it more you reaching out to artists, or do you have more so artists reaching out to you and you pick and choose which ones you want?
Again, I'd say probably a combination. For me, at this juncture, it's important that we have the right people working with us, because we've worked hard to build a brand and a family-oriented feeling. But I'm quite aware. This is no. I'm not casting aspersions to anybody else out there at all. But you have to be very aware that if we take in individuals that don't fit the kind of demographic of what we have, then really it upset things. So it's a combination. I kind of prefer to find artists that I want and have earmarked as guys that I think we can work with. And a lot of that comes from hearing about how they are from other artists. So you learn a bit about their work ethic, you learn about how they operate, and you think, yeah, that guy or that girl could work really well with us. So I prefer to be on the front foot with it, Ryan, rather than being sat here waiting for people to come to us. That's not saying that if someone came to us tomorrow that was extremely talented and came across as fitting in, that we wouldn't entertain the idea. But we're probably a little bit more proactive than reactive right now.
And obviously, stepping outside of the across the pond and Asia and everything, you picked up a Canadian this year and Sun Kumanaki, and then the two writers, Philip and James, that are over here in the U.S. So making it a little bit broader of your scope of where you're pulling from now.
Yeah, and again, same thing. It was I'd seen some of Philip's work and had been watching what he'd been writing from when he'd done stuff at Boom, and then he started to write Last God. I kind of thought, reading this guy's stuff, I really love it. I can see him going on to be extremely, having a great career, in effect. So that one was me looking at something that I was really enjoying, and I thought, you know what? Let me reach out. Let me have a chat with Philip. In this industry, you talk to a lot of other businesses that can give you sort of feedback on their experiences with creators. So I'd heard that Philip was a really good guy to be around. He had a real zest for the fandom. So that was kind of what interested me. To be honest, talking to Philip, what then interested me. Once we had a conversation, it became very clear that I think we're both quite like-minded in terms of what he wants to achieve, what we want to achieve. So that was a really easy kind of conversation. And Sun, as you've mentioned earlier, Sun's extremely talented. You can see she's extremely talented in a lot of different mediums. And for me, that's really important. And James Tinian, who's going to not want to work with Batman writer, and James has written fantastic things for Batman. So that was, again, but me and James had quite a few conversations. I think we both realised that we could work together because we're both saying the same things and want the same things. And so that's the expansion kind of 101 there, really. It's you have a plan, but when you talk to creators, if it doesn't quite seem like you have the same motivations, then maybe it's to work together. I personally would prefer not to start working with someone within 6 months' time, a year's time, through have different visions.
I've got a question real quick for Daniel, guys. Daniel, you talk about the brand. You talk about brand with Scott's Collectibles, and you look at companies and great companies. They have a brand. What creates that brand is their core values. And I think you brought and talked about some of those, but could you sum up maybe some core values that Scott stands on?
Yeah, for sure. For me, the values are: we want I want our artists to be seen and be producing work all over the world. First thing for me in terms of a value for our company is we want to be able to provide exposure to the people we work with. If we can't provide exposure to the creators we work with, then we're failing. Exposure is obviously a value for us. A family-oriented style is a value. It's very easy to run a business and do it in a way that is business oriented but without any fun. And I think that having that kind of family feel where, I know we've got things right when during this pandemic, everybody's messaging each other to see how each other are. That to me tells me that we've built that family oriented feeling. That value is really underpinning what we're doing. Giving the guys exposure, having that family-oriented feeling at the heart of everything we do. I'd say they're probably the two biggest things that underpin, and from a fan perspective, being able to help fans get signatures, get artwork, get commissions, get original published pieces from all over the world without them having to be at a big. We live in a world where if the last 4 or 5 weeks have taught us anything, meeting people face to face, if that's how you do your business and that's the only way you do your business is not going to last very long. We've had to really focus on the digitalisation of the industry. I don't mean that in the sense of digital artwork, I mean in the sense of how do we reach every corner of the world, help fans get things, their favourite creators, in a fashion that we're all doing right now.
Absolutely. Great answer. And if you're on here and you have never had a chance to visit Daniel's booth when they're at a convention, truly everything that you just spoke, Daniel, I've seen it firsthand when I was walked to your booth. You could see it, you could feel it. So absolutely, family is definitely, you can feel it. So,
well, and again, another perspective is for me, and one of the reasons why I think I'm in this industry is I get to go out there and meet people like you guys, where how many jobs out there can you travel one country to another, work in a medium that you really enjoy, meet people you really have a good time with, go out, eat, drink, party, take your classes, work.
Absolutely.
Very rare. The only thing that seems to be stopping that is COVID-19, really.
Just real quick, McLean said, I love the fact that you were there for your artist, how high you speak of each one, and the passion for promoting them and taking care of them as you do is there. Tons of respect there for what you do and how you operate in that process and promoting. Thank you for taking care of the talent you bring in and taking care of them as they were part of your immediate family. That is the way it should be. So props there for McLean on that. So
thank you.
Going back to Philip and James, obviously, so I'm curious, was it you that coordinated, or did it end up being dumb luck in that you have Philip working on Marvel's Zombies Resurrection with Inhook doing the covers, and then James working on Batman with Matina doing the covers? So now anyone that brings that to your booth is getting it double signed.
That's great.
I wish I could take credit for what. That's all on them getting those jobs. I have to take credit for knowing what my guys are working on and making sure I'm tuned into the industry enough that I realise, hold on, Luke's doing these next 4 or 5 covers for this title, and the writer that I really enjoy his work is now writing that title. So that helps with the decision-making process. I can't take any credit for any of those guys working on that, because I think that's Marvel have to take credit on that front. And on the Batman front, no, I can't take any credit at all for that, other than it seemed like a very, very obvious decision to speak to James, because I'd heard that James was starting to do things on his own, and I'd heard from other creators what he was like in terms of as a person, and I could just, from what I was being told, as long as that was accurate, I could realise that James would get on really well with us, and we would probably do a lot for James as much as physically possible, and at the same time, working with James is an obvious no-brainer. So, yeah, I can't take credit for any of them, actually, Ryan.
I had to ask. You never know. So I didn't know how behind you were. So. Tim says, hello, Dan. Cool to put a face and voice to the name. Thank you for being so communicative when trying to line up commissions. So just some props out there from Tim. Speaking of that, I know you had set up and we actually took advantage of the Dell Auto signing. Any update on that, where you're at with that? Can you say, or is that still in the works? Or?
So, I mean, unfortunately, Italy being where it's at the moment, getting things to and from Italy is not as easy as you should be. You know, so we're literally waiting for Italy to ease its lockdown in order to get those books signed. So they're ready, they're where they should be, but in Italy at the moment, you know, our lockdown's harsher than normal life, obviously. But you can go out, walk down the road, go to a post office. In certain parts of Italy, they just can't do that. So there's no point trying to have, you know, from what I understand, Gab is in his studio, he lives at home. He can only leave, like most Italians, to go out and buy food.
Right.
He can go to his studio, sign books, and then get them sent back to us is a no-no until such a time that they ease the rules in Italy. So I've got to admit that is an effect with a lot of the other artists we work with as well. So we have to be mindful that our guys can't ship back commissions to us until that ban or that quarantine is eased. But I probably keep an eye on the Italian news more than I do the UK news.
Well, being that you have quite a few artists coming out of Italy, that would make sense with Kenro and Vidi and Perillo and Martina and Bermejo and Camo. So you got a few over there. So
yeah, quite a lot. Yeah.
Says,
fingers crossed. Hoping that eases.
Yes, absolutely. So for the Italy guys. Corey says Dan is a class act, one of the best guys in the industry to work with, hands down. So that's from Corey, our term representative. So
thank you, Corey, and I'll send you that $20 straight after this.
You know, Corey's one we need to get on here sometime as well. He's got a lot of insight in the industry. It'd be fun to have one.
We'll have
Corey's you know, when you go to work with someone and you start doing things with them, and it's obvious the passion they have for the industry, and they do things from a passion-oriented place rather than a money-oriented place. And that's probably why me and Corey get on quite well. Definitely coming from the passion rather than the money.
Absolutely.
So I don't owe him $20.
Yeah, but he'll collect that at the next con whenever we can all get back out.
Lee wants to know if he says something nice, can you get some cash too? He's running low club money.
Oh, go on. Go on. You can say something nice, and maybe I'll let him look at the giant size X-Men one we just bought in a collection.
Let's be honest. Can Lee actually say something nice? Is he capable of doing that?
He can. He just reserves it for special occasions.
Oh.
So I got a quick question. Knowing that, as you said, and I think we all know that pretty much con season is going to be closed here for 2020. So when 2021 comes back around and the cons open back up, knock here a little bit, are you going to look at maybe adding a couple more cons in the States that you normally would not do, to maybe add those to your schedule to make up a little bit for everything being shut down this year?
Yeah, I think we had so much planned for this year that it's kind of heartbreaking to think that we might not end up doing. So for sure, Chris, next year I would like to to sort of everything we've had planned, I would like to just literally defer till next year. But I am aware of the fact that I think once the world goes back to some sort of remnants of normality, that everybody's going to want to go to a lot of conventions. One, because it's something that everyone misses. So I've got a feeling we might end up with more conventions than we would have necessarily planned to do. I think I'll probably end up living in the US for a period of time, I should imagine, which is fine by me. As long as you guys haven't still got loads of team, that is. But yeah, I think that it's a foregone conclusion next year that if we plan to do 5, 6 conventions, it might end up being 7 or 8. So, fingers crossed, Chris. Let's hope the world fixes itself and that we can actually make that some sort of form of reality.
And I know here in the U.S., for sure, I know off the top of my head that you have planned with C2E2, Fan Expo Dallas, MegaCon, San Diego, New York, and then I think you had one in Canada, Toronto Fan Expo, maybe? And then were you doing anything in South America this year?
So South America, no, because there is one big convention in Brazil that we really want to do, but it clashes with Singapore Comic Con.
Okay.
As you know, is what we did Spawn 303 out last year.
Right.
So they clash this year if they happen. So Singapore is somewhere that we really enjoyed last year. So it's somewhere that we would go back to, and we've had conversations about who would go to that convention, how that would look with the organisers. Whether that happens or not, it's probably unlikely. But yeah, ultimately, if we could pick those plans up and move them to next year, then that would probably be the convention we do in December time. South American convention.
Gotcha. Emerald City, do y'all do that one?
We didn't do Emerald. We haven't done Emerald City actually.
Okay.
One that I would like to do. The problem with Emerald City and C2E2 is, from a logistical perspective, trying to do conventions that are on weekends away from each other. You start having conventions that are 2 or 3 weekends apart. It means we would have to fly to the US and either fly back home and back to the US again and then back home, or have to stay in the US for a 2 or 3 week period. Now, coordinating artists to some of the conventions we go to later on off can sometimes be complicated. The thought of having to coordinate, us all living in the US together for 2 or 3 weeks is just kind of beyond what I really want to do. It just depends,
I wouldn't be around that long.
Ryan, I didn't hear that.
I said I wouldn't want to be around and leave that long either.
Yeah, of course. But I would love to do it. But, everybody's got, from an artist perspective, guys have deadlines they have to do. So being away for 2 or 3 weeks in one big chunk is probably unachievable. They would have to fly to the US, then home, then back. And I actually do quite like my family as well. So it'd be nice to be at home in between. So yeah, Chicago for us, it's a lot easier to get to. It's a great show, and from a flying time perspective, it's much more achievable. Whereas Emerald City, being on the other side of the country, is a little bit more complicated, which is probably the only reason we want that show.
Gotcha. Just curious on that. Julie and Chris, did y'all have anything else you'd like to add? Or anybody in there?
I'm good. He answered my questions that I had. I just know it was kind of a bummer all this happened because we were really looking forward to getting to see you in Dallas because you guys were coming down here to Fan Expo, so we were pretty excited about going to get to hang out with you guys and see you again because it's been since MegaCon. I know Ryan, you've seen them since MegaCon last year, but I mean, so we kind of miss you guys. I mean, yeah, we've had Alan and Kel and Carla on and got to see them, and we have Tiffany joining us. Tiffany Groves is joining us on Thursday morning. She'll be joining us. So, but yeah, we hadn't got to see you, so we were a little bummed out about that because we were going to have fun with you.
Yeah, me and Ryan, we had quite a bit of cons kind of coordinated. He was going to be at some, I was going to be at some, and it did. It kind of stunk a little bit, but you know what? It's good to hear that you guys are possibly considering coming next year and just kind of pushing the schedule over, so to speak. So that's good to hear. I'm excited. I definitely miss the cons myself. it's definitely a bummer. I know a lot of the fans are very bummed out about it, but kudos to the artists. You look on social media every day and you see that they're staying connected with their fan bases, and you guys, what you're doing, Daniel, today, taking the time out of your day here with us today to talk to the fans, and Corey, what he does on his page as well. So there's definitely a passion in the industry, and all hands off and salute to the guys and girls out there as artists too and writers.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with the same there. I was really looking forward to Alex this year, and a lot of that stems from the fact that we worked with, you guys know, James worked with us, and we're really looking forward to seeing James and hang out. Brian helped us at conventions, and for us, it was kind of, one of the, like I said already, one of the reasons that these shows is that family-oriented feel, and I think Dallas this year was probably one of my most looked forward to events because we were going to get to see everybody and hang out with you, and that not happening is a disappointment, shall we say? But guys, I look at what we missed out on this year will make up for it.
Absolutely. You kind of answered this earlier, and I think Corey may have joined in a little late. He said, when taking on clients you do, what do you think is the most important thing you lean on for deciding yes or no? I think that kind of goes back to the answer of the family atmosphere.
Yeah, again, it's making sure everybody has the same motivation. That for me is 100%. If the creator and you have the same vision, you have the same ideas as to what we want to do, then things will work. It's very unlikely if you have the same motivation. That's for me the most important thing. And I wouldn't ever sit here and mention conversation. Sometimes you have a conversation with someone that's kind of feeling you out, whether they work with you or not. It becomes very clear very quickly that they have a different thought process to you. That doesn't mean it's a bad thought process. I mean, when we went there, they have a different understanding of what people do. And I think the second you realise that you have something different in opinion, the best thing to do is to say, hey, I'm going to stay as a fan of your work, but I'm working with you probably, because it's better to not disappoint each other,
Yeah, and you're cutting in a little bit in and out there, Dan, but kind of the gist of it. And I can attest, I was a first-hand witness to a potential artist after meeting with that artist. It didn't really work out because of just the views didn't seem to flow with Scott's Collectibles representatives. In that.
Ryan, we got a conversation going on in the chat over here, I see, and it's a very
dinner at MegaCon. Corey wanted to. First, Corey said you better keep that beard growing.
You do need to keep the beard growing. You really do.
It's harder to get through customs when you have the beard.
Hey,
and James,
you guys didn't see my dad today. My dad has full on Father Christmas beard. It's the only way I can
stay anyway. James said, with Corey on, I look back at MegaCon and the dinner we all had. Corey says that dinner was amazing. And then something about we were in the kids section. Oh, I'll go to Chow. That's right.
Yeah, we the four of us with Brian were on the other side of the serving table. We were in the kids section where they had the big room. So
yeah.
See how you guys are just depressing me. Just the thought of everything we did, we can't do right now. It's just painful.
Well, like you said, James is agreeing with you. Those are what makes the con so much fun. Spending it with friends from all over the world. Absolutely right. Where else are you going to get the UK, Malaysia, Korea, even here in the US, from all different cities, all together and hanging out. Just like at New York, when we went to dinner with had everybody up there at that Texas barbecue place. Down the table, and you got Kato and Alan Paul talking to each other, and Now and Hale were hanging out and having a good time. So,
gonna miss that this year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Lee said Alan's doing that. Alan Akbar Scott.
Yeah, He
Nice.
definitely won't get into the US if he does not shave that beard next time we come.
You need to take a picture and post it in the Scott's Collectibles group just so everybody can see it. So, we'll take one last question and then wrap it up. We've been on for almost an hour, and I told you I wouldn't keep you too late because I know you got family there. Dan Blaine said, collector reader question. Who's your favorite comic book character and why?
Oh, for me, it's not a famous character. It's a famous group. I've always been a massive X-Men fan. One of the first comics I ever read. So for me, X-Men was kind of one of the reasons why I really liked comic book. And this was back in the day when Jim Lee was doing the covers and, 1,000 X-Men ones came out. Actually, the storylines were really good, really good. So for me, X-Men for sure. Holy Grail for me is just try and get an X-Men one in probably about a 5.0 plus condition. But still working on that.
Nothing says hi. Lee wants you to know that he thinks you like squirrels. And yes, Corey, I actually gave Kel a hard time about that. He thought it was like an ice cream slushie, and it was not.
He was talking about that the other day, Ryan.
Just a follow question on that, and then we'll let you go, Dan. So, being X-Men is your favorite. Do you have a commission from every single one of your artists that is an X-Men character of some kind?
No, because, and I'll explain this to you guys, because it's a policy we built in a while ago. If I take commissions from every single creator we work from, it means I stop a fan getting a commission. So we very early decided that we would never ask any of our creators to do a commission for us, because it puts them in an awkward position where they might be obliged to do it. It bumps a fan down the list one place, and I think it just kind of makes you come across as slightly less professional and a little bit more fan oriented when you should be professional and not fan oriented. So actually, I have virtually no commissions. I as much as I'd love to, believe me, having the guys draw for us would be a massive perk. But I think I'd probably get linked by all the fans. So yeah, I don't have any.
That's a shame. I hate to hear that because you've got some amazing artists. If it makes you feel any better, I do have some commissions from your
I
artists.
respect them a lot more because I'd be in trouble. I would have been called into HR already.
All right. Well, Dan, we greatly appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us and taking time away from your family during this epidemic that's going on. Thank everyone that came in and watched and asked questions. Had even Ashley, one of my friends, join, who I think this may be your first time. So maybe we'll get her into comic books there. But again, from all of us here, thank you so much, Daniel. We greatly appreciate it.
Guys, a pleasure. Absolute pleasure seeing you all. And keep up the good work. Stay safe. And hey, you never know. Maybe you'll see us at some point before Christmas. Who knows?
Maybe. Fingers crossed.
We're crossing our fingers.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Daniel. Take care. Thank you.
Dan.
Thanks, Daniel.
All right. Have a good day.
Enjoy your day and enjoy coffee time with Pastime Comics and Collectibles.